You and your doctor.
The content, information, and opinions expressed during the related show are those of the show personalities and guest alone, and not those of Vic Canellis Media Group, its parent, affiliates, or stations. VCMG Live is not responsible for any content, information, or opinions expressed. User bears full responsibility for their reliance on such content, information, or opinions.
Presents You and Your Doctor, teaching you to live a longer and healthier life. Proudly sponsored by All County Healthcare, where people are the heart of our business. All County Healthcare is a Medicare certified agency where one call will service all your home care health needs. For more information, call 954-717-7027 or visit our website, allcountyhealthcare.com. Now, let's get informed to living a longer and healthier life. Here is your host for today's show.
Hi everybody, welcome back to another episode of You and Your Doctor, sponsored by All County Healthcare. We are a certified home healthcare agency servicing Palm Beach County, Broward, and Miami-Dade, and we can be reached at 954-717-7027. I am your host, Louise Gomez, and today we have Dr. Ginge Brien, sorry.
No problem.
And you can reach him directly at 954-536-4903, and the email is drgbrien@gmail.com, and his specialty is internal medicine, metabolic medicine, anti-aging and regenerative, as well as geriatric. Thank you so much for coming to the show, Dr. Brien.
My pleasure.
It's so wonderful to have you here. I know that you do, well, let me actually ask you a couple of questions before we start all that. Can you tell our listeners a little bit more about your experience, your background, your education, and whatnot?
Okay, so I grew up I'm originally from Canada, grew up partly in Israel. I did my medical school at Sackler University in Tel Aviv, Sackler School of Medicine. And then I did my residency at Beth Israel in New York. And then I came down here and I went into primary care for HIV. And then I left that, and I was in the jail system for a while, not me personally, just as working as the doctor for the jail. And then, though that is an ongoing joke with an old friend of mine. But, and then I went into practice in the area of Century Village, working with the older population and being on staff at North Broward Medical Center. I think it's Broward Health North now, and worked there for many, many years. And now I'm in my own very small VIP concierge
type. Okay.
Practice.
So I was going to say, so I guess you get a lot of referrals if you're doing this type of concierge.
It's all it's generally word of mouth, and it's, you know, people, the way medicine is going today, the care isn't there, and so people don't, you know, you come out of a hospital, you don't know what you're doing, you've got all this list of medicines, they don't know what they're for, what they do, and so I come in and I help clear that up, I help them understand what their health problems are, who they need to see, as far as help them get in to see the specialist and manage that, and help them know when they need to go to the hospital and stay out of the hospital for their greater good.
How did you get to come to know All County Healthcare, if you want to share
Well,
that?
actually, I took care of a couple patients of All County. I won't mention their names,
Sure.
but I have to say All County provides a service called intrapulmonary ventilation, which literally saved this man's life and his breathing. So it's wholly underutilized. Anybody with COPD, emphysema, anybody post-COVID syndrome, and I'm sure there's other great usages there, should be, the pulmonists in the area should become aware of this procedure, this activity that you can use at home. It's partially, I think, covered for a certain amount by insurances. They should be using it because it greatly improves your lung function.
So this is for like people with maybe COPD?
Emphysema, post-COVID syndrome, maybe cystic fibrosis, you know, these problems where they have chronic phlegm, etc.
Interesting. So as far as your patients, what's the age range of the patients that you see?
Today I am really taking care of people that I try to stick between 18 and 105.
Okay, so you actually, it sounds like you actually had a patient at that age.
Well, I get younger than 18 that want to come to me that are the peds, and you know, occasionally I'll do the favor, but generally I try to stay in adult medicine.
So what are the types of patients that you like to see?
Complicated, very sick.
Oh, okay.
The ones that need help. My direction today is really teaching people that if they change what they eat, they can generally, over a period of time, get rid of most of their health problems.
So it's back to basics, right? As a
Back-
kid,
yeah,
we learned
absolutely.
you are what you eat.
You are
right?
what you eat,
I
absolutely.
mean, I've heard that, and nowadays you go to the supermarket and it's like you pick up a box and you read it and you're like, is this even food, right?
Right. So, to go down this pathway, the reality is, we in America have been good. We followed our, they claim we don't follow, but we followed the American diet rules. The American diet rules are absolutely garbage. They're making us sick. But they're mandated, and so if you're going to school, that's what you're going to get. If you're in the hospitals, you're going to be given a diet based on that. That diet is making us sick. And so our understanding of nutrition is wrong. And I'll just say for the record, I even though I am a doctor, I didn't get my nutritional learning from medical school.
Right, that's what they all say, right?
There's nothing there. You get the party, party line. You're told what to follow, and it's the same thing for anybody going through school for nutrition.
Right.
And so if that's that's your sum total understanding, and that's where you stop, you know nothing.
Right.
And so unfortunately, when you go to the hospital, you're given, let's talk about somebody who's a diabetic. You go to the hospital and they give you 1,800 calorie American Diabetic Association diet, which most of it, if I'd drop dead seeing my diabetic patient getting a glass of juice in the morning, orange juice. I mean, you might as well just pump them through with sugar.
Right.
So.
And that's what they're recommending.
And that's what they're recommending,
First thing
and
in the
that's
morning,
what they're doing.
Yeah.
So, I guess where I would go before I go into where we should go with the diet is the fact that everything that we think we know, that we've indoctrinated, that we've internalized regarding nutrition is wrong. I don't think there'd be anybody here who doesn't think that vegetables and fruit are good for them and that are necessary. And that I'm sure that if there's any vegetarian here, they've stopped listening right this second because they believe that their life is better from eating vegetables and eating only vegetables. And I have personally never met a sane or healthy vegetarian. And if you think about it for a moment, I'm not being insulting, but you're not a cow.
Right.
And if you think about that, a cow is designed to eat grass, is designed to eat this stuff. You're not.
Right.
You're not you don't ruminate, you don't have two stomachs, etc. If you look at the human body and how we're built, the acids in your stomach are designed to break down protein, to break down fat.
Right.
But what do? We go back to the early 1900s, at the turn of the century, when we knocked off all the whales in the world and there was no more blubber to oil the machinery. They came up with cottonseed. And the
Cottonseed
oil started lubricating our factories. And as a result of that, they saw this yellow slough coming off and they said, oh my God, that looks like lard. Let me see if we can turn this into a cooking oil.
And
Crisco was born.
To a profit,
right. And you can thank the cottonseed oil industry for the American Heart Association, because they got their first endowment to actually start the American Heart Association through an endowment from the cottonseed industry. And by the way, they're still giving money there quite a bit. So the bottom line is, if you take this down, we went through life where we were told that animal fat, cholesterol, is bad.
Right.
And in fairness, it's been misaligned. And most doctors and most of us quietly didn't notice when the American Heart Association and the American Colleges of Cardiology quietly, because God forbid they would announce it, that would mean they'd have to say, oh my God, I was wrong.
Right.
But they wouldn't do that. So quietly, they now advocate for a little animal saturated fat. But I'm going to ask anybody that's listening, 80% of the cholesterol in your body is made by you. Is it logical that your God-given body, 80% is made by you, and the sole purpose of that cholesterol is destroy you, to tear down your house. So I'm going to steal from Dr. Ali Nadir, great cardiologist online. Somebody should look him up and listen to him. But he would say that we've mislabeled LDL cholesterol, low density lipoprotein, and we've called it the arson burning down your house. When in reality, it's the firemen coming to save you from what you're doing. Now, if we talk about fat for a minute, or we talk about vegetables,
Okay.
what is it in a vegetable? You have protein, but it's not a complete
Right.
protein. There's not enough. So if you eat only one vegetable, you're definitely in trouble.
Sure.
It has fat. Most people don't realize it has fat. It has phytosterols.
Right.
And those phytosterols mimic cholesterol, but they don't function like cholesterol. So they get in there and they junk up the membranes. They junk up the receptors. They cause inflammation. And when we're told that they're vegetable oils,
Right.
but they're told they're vegetable oils because we all think vegetables are good.
You're right.
They're actually seed oils, and they're sitting on there and they get oxidized. We cook with them and that heats them up and that oxidizes it. And we absorb that. That causes inflammation and causes damage.
I think a lot more people
Are
who
recognizing
are
it.
recognizing it. At least I would say there are a lot more on social media. Young
I
of
think-
these,
right.
they're saying, please be aware of these seed oils,
You're
these
right.
cottonseed oils.
We
you know.
shouldn't be using those at all. In fact, if you went back in the day, McDonald's used to cook their fries in
Right.
lard.
Right.
And so we actually need to go back to that.
Well, I heard McDonald's now has 17 ingredients in their French fries.
Right, no, but again,
Yeah.
that alone, if
Yeah.
you follow the introduction
Sure.
of seed oils
Yeah.
and the rise in heart attacks, it's humongous.
Wow.
But what brings us around to the issue with cholesterol, going back to the idea that you make your own cholesterol. Cholesterol supports our brain, supports our nerves. It makes all your hormones. It's your first line in defense.
Yeah.
And if there's any damage in your body, you need the cholesterol to repair it. And so what have we done? The American diet now is about 70% sugar.
Yeah. Let's get back to that. We're going to
We'll
take
get
a
back to that.
commercial
Okay,
break,
I'm
and then we're
talking-
going to get back to
okay.
that because this is a very interesting topic, and I know a lot of people get to hear this
Yes.
and they want to hear it. So we're going to take a quick commercial break, and then we'll be back talking about that. All righty.
All County Healthcare has exciting news for any and all patients with COPD or other respiratory ailments. Listen to what renowned pulmonologist Dr. Keith Robinson has to say.
Hello, I'm Dr. Keith Robinson, board-certified pulmonologist, medical director at Fusion Health Pulmonary Rehabilitation, and a board member with the American Lung Association of South Florida. We have exciting news for patients with COPD. We now offer IPV therapy at home, which has been demonstrated to improve airway clearance, decrease hospitalization, and improve quality of life of patients with COPD. Please call All County Healthcare for more information about this FDA-approved therapy.
For further information, call All County Healthcare now at 954-717-7027. That is 954-717-7027, or visit our website at allcountyhealthcare.com. You can also find us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Remember, All County Healthcare always puts the patient's needs first. You are listening to You and Your Doctor, Living Longer and Healthier, an informative show that helps you find answers to questions you always wanted to ask, but did not have that somebody that could make a difference in your life. Call into the show if you have a question at 888-565-1470, and we will put you on the air to inform all our listeners. Now, back to our show.
Thanks for coming back, everybody. We have Dr. Brien. He can be reached at 954-536-4903. The email address is drgbrien@gmail.com. And Dr. Brien, I'm really enjoying this conversation as far as we were talking about oils and whatnot. So I love olive oil. I'm from Spain, and that's how I grew up. Everything was olive oil. Is that a seed oil? Is that okay?
So it is a seed oil.
Okay.
It's not. I would argue from what we know today that
Okay.
olive oil, coconut oil, avocado oil
Right.
is theoretically good for you.
Okay.
However, are you getting pure?
So you have to check the source.
You need to check the source,
Check the
and you
source.
want to make sure that it's not been sitting on the shelf under the sun
Right.
in plastic
True.
container,
Right.
picking up microplastics and being oxidized, because all these oils get oxidized, they go in our system and cause a problem.
Right.
So just to take you down the line a little bit further here, because I jumped into plants here for a second, is the bottom line here is going back to the cholesterol. There's something you can look up online. Look up the cholesterol paradox. Anybody, and I want you to hear this now, anybody with low cholesterol has a higher all-cause mortality than somebody with high cholesterol.
So
With that said and done, for 30 years, us doctors have pushed cholesterol-lowering medicine called statins.
statins, right?
And they're telling you that is going to prevent a heart attack and it's going to prolong your life.
Okay.
That is a blatant lie. Statins, the best study on statin that ever was done was on the 4S study on simvastatin. And the drug company, I'll say, if the polite way to say that is they embellished or exaggerated, I'll call it a blatant lie.
Okay.
What they told us is if you take simvastatin for 5.4 years,
Right.
you'll decrease your risk of a heart attack per year by 42%. If I heard 40%, I'm in. I'm taking the
Sure.
statin. But that was a misdirect. They gave you a relative risk reduction. What was the absolute risk reduction? 0.6%. If you took it for 5.4 years. In other words, I'm not doing nothing for 0.6, but they didn't discuss the problems and the side effect. And we know today that anybody who's taking statins for long term, I don't need even to look. I know that their arteries are going to be calcified because it blocks vitamin K2 production.
So what would you suggest, what would be your diet or lifestyle change for someone who is concerned about elevated hypertension or cholesterol? Like how
Okay.
would we address those types of...
So the answer here is if you're a diabetic,
Okay,
if you've got heart disease,
okay,
and I'm going to get a lot of guff for this, but if you've got heart disease, you've got hypertension, if you've got an autoimmune disorder, if you've got obesity, if you're worried about dementia, then the answer here is you want to stop consuming sugar
Yes.
in any form.
believe that.
And when I say sugar, half my people will tell me, "Oh, well, I don't eat sugar, but I have my salad every day,
Right.
and I have my fruit, and fruit's good for me, etc." Well, the major sugar in fruit is fructose, which is infinitely more toxic than glucose.
So it's the spikes in the sugar, right? The spikes that we get
Well,
when we eat it?
what happens when you eat a sugar?
Yeah,
The minute you put something sweet on your tongue,
right.
you spit it out because you don't want the so-called calorie. Calorie is a misnomer, but we'll use calorie for the
Okay.
moment, right? And you brush your tongue, wash it. It's too late. Your brain has already surmised that you're ingesting something. It's going to secrete insulin. Insulin causes weight gain,
Right.
causes increased appetite, and it causes inflammation. And so that gets released, the sugar goes down, then it causes a release of sugar. If there's no sugar, then you make the sugar.
Okay.
And therefore you're on this chronic roller coaster of up the insulin, down the sugar.
Right.
Now, let me just ask you a small question.
Sure.
If you were a recovering alcoholic, God forbid, does it seem sensible for me as a doctor to say, here, have a glass of alcohol, and I'm going to give you a pill so that your body can handle the alcohol a little bit better? Does that make
No,
any
no,
sense
not at
whatsoever? But here in diabetes, instead of being serious and saying, if you want to get over diabetes, if you don't want to be a chronically ill patient,
What do you suggest?
stop ingesting sugar of any kind. You can't have rice. You can't have fruit. You can't have salads. You can't.
Change of lifestyle.
Change
So,
of life
a
completely.
Change of lifestyle.
Yes. Right.
So diet as an exercise, and what else
Yeah.
would be considered a?
So in the change of lifestyle here, you want to be on a high animal fat diet and a mild to moderate animal protein. And if you go there and you do it for 1 month, you will find that just out of naturally, you're going to feel better, you're going to sleep better, you're going to function better.
High protein. Can you repeat that again? What is it?
High animal saturated fat,
Okay.
which is, we're talking percentage-wise, I'm saying 70, 80%.
Okay. So what would be a daily?
15, 20% animal protein,
Okay.
and go with that. And in fact, what I promote is the carnivore diet. And I'll give you an example. I do have a patient who was 340 pounds,
Wow.
diabetic,
Wow.
sleep apnea,
Of course.
kidney stones up the wazoo. His blood pressure was high blood pressure. His blood
Sure.
pressure was never controlled. His blood pressure was running when he brought me in 170s over 110, which
Wow.
is deplorable.
Yeah.
His sugars were running in the 300. He was on 2 medicines, and he had sleep apnea. He was just feeling really lousy, and of course the kidney stones were killing him slowly but surely. So I told him, I says, listen, I'm not sure you're serious, but if you're serious, I'm willing to help here. So I convinced him to go on a carnivore diet.
Okay.
By the second week, he was off all his blood pressure meds, off his
Wow.
diabetic meds. He was sleeping better. His sugars off all medicines. This is not good, but it was 120 fasting prior to meals.
Wow.
His blood pressure off medicines for the first time since he could possibly remember was 125 over 70. He hadn't seen that in 2 or 3 years. Now this sounds like a crazy anecdotal story, but there's so many people out there in society that are doing it.
I get it.
And
yeah.
so, you know, the answer here is if you can get beyond your thinking and beyond the idea that cholesterol is the danger here, you'll do fine. Now, on a carnivore diet, the typical patient on a carnivore diet is going to have high total cholesterol. He's going to have a high LDL.
Okay.
He's going to have a low triglyceride. The triglycerides are going to go down to 100 or less, and his HDL is going to go up. Now, does the LDL mean anything?
You tell me.
No.
Okay.
No. First of all, the triglycerides, the HDL, are an actual calculated number. So the machine looks in and counts all the cholesterol in a certain amount of blood. The LDL's calculated. They're not, doctors are not performing the right test. The LDL's high, you go on a statin. If you're on a statin, which is like there, you're guaranteed, you're more likely down the road to develop a stroke, a heart attack, diabetes, and dementia.
Wow.
And it's in the literature. You can't fight me on this. So go ahead.
I was going to say, so Dr. Brien, we have about 3 minutes left.
Okay.
So I would say I usually like to ask, you know, closing out, what do you suggest, a person who's listening right now, what do you suggest could be their first action steps or lifestyle changer? Like, what is a simple thing we can leave our audience with if they want to start creating a better lifestyle?
Well, if you don't have any serious medical conditions where you're not on any medications for the moment, then I recommend there is a free carnivore summit with all the world experts online that you can go look up.
Okay.
It's starting on June 19th. You got Ken Berry there, you got Dr. Seawise, you've got the Professor Bart, you're going to have a Dr. Chaffee, and a slew of great people who are giving valuable information. And it's free. Go there, check that, listen, and then you can follow them online, and they will actually lead you on exactly how to start. And it's very simple, per se. If you have medical problems, you want to get in touch with one of these doctors or even myself, and I can help you navigate going that way.
Perfect. So we have 1 minute left. I'm going to make sure I give everybody your contact information so they can get in touch with you. You can reach Dr. Brien at 954-536-4903. drgbrien @gmail.com. Thank you so much for coming to the show.
My
I learned
pleasure.
a lot, and
Thank
I
you.
appreciate you. You're so passionate about what you do, and I appreciate that passion. And thank you so much. All right.
Thank you very much. It was my
All
pleasure.
right. Absolutely. Great show.